This is fine. 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 This is a poor substitute for therapy, but an excellent substitute for other podcasts. We're not like other podcasts. Join us as we find the answers to the universe's biggest questions like, is butter a carb? Does crying burn calories? And what the fuck am I doing with my life? We're here to be your part-time therapist, astrologer, concierge doctor, and fairy godmother. Do you need someone to validate you today? Cool. Come on in. We're fine. This is fine. Cuties, bienvenue. Welcome back. And if this is your first time here, enchanté. Je m'appelle Dominique, and I'm your host here at This Is Fine. Today, I've got my two newest friends from TikTok here, the REAL Emilies in Paris. And those of you who are already part of the This Is Fine community know that France is one of our favorite topics. So we're especially excited today, not excité, but excited, to have Amanda Rollins and Morgan Heiser on the show today, calling in from Paris. These American beauties have been living in Paris for about 5 years each. They're content creators on TikTok and became friends through their mutual expat experience. You may have already seen them on the Clock app, as we call it, via their accounts American Fille, Fille, and Bisou Morgan, Bisousmorgan. Both of those accounts are hyperlinked in our episode description and show notes, so you can go check them out. And that's where I found them. Cruising through my FYP on TikTok, I saw a hilarious clip of the two of them talking about their experience dating Parisian men. So obviously, I needed to get them on the show immediately to talk about it so all of you could listen in. They are living out the real-life version of a Darren Star show, minus the eccentric costumes. Let's introduce Amanda first, American Fille. Amanda is from Greenfield, Massachusetts, and like your girl here, became a Francophile at a very early age. She started learning French at 12, graduated university with a minor in French, and in 2017, she quit her job, sold everything she owned except her cat, and moved with said cat to Paris. So she's living all of our dreams. And as for Morgan, or Bisou Morgan if you're on the internet, she's from Ohio. Both she and Amanda actually began their French journeys as au pairs before landing jobs in tech and marketing. Morgan moved to Paris a year after Amanda in 2018, after experiencing, as she puts it, a quarter-life crisis. What was supposed to be a one-year stint as an au pair turned into a master's degree in France in international brand strategy, casual, and working in marketing for French companies. Literally, this is the making of a Netflix series. Two American girls from different states seek out Paris as a means of restarting their lives. They've got different goals. One speaks French, one doesn't. They're going from au pairing to marketing. They become friends across the globe. It sounds like I'm hard launching their personal brand, and maybe I am, but y'all know I love a good story. Today, we'll talk about their expat experience, cultural differences, what they love about Paris, and, of course, their dating stories. This may or may not just be my own personal investigation that you're getting to listen in on, but just make yourself comfortable. Pour yourself a café crème or un petit verre de vin. It doesn't matter what time it is. You're joining some American gals who love Paris for a chat about life in France. All right, welcome, girlfriends. Bienvenue, les filles. Merci de me rejoindre aujourd'hui. I'm going to keep this in English today for the sake of our listeners, with maybe a sprinkling of franglais here and there. But thank you both for being here and calling in from Paris.
Yeah, happy to be here.
We're happy to be here.
I start off every episode by asking the most important question: are you fine today?
I mean, fine is what it is. Fine. Yeah.
I'm fine. It's subjective.
Right?
We're fine.
Yeah, everything's fine. It's
fine. It's fine.
Pretty much the energy of the show. But are we feeling good today? We're feeling ready to rock and roll with a little girlfriends happy hour?
Yeah.
Yes, ready to jump in.
I've already given a bit of background in the intro, but I would love for each of you to introduce yourselves now so the listeners can get to know your voices a little bit better.
I can go first. All right. So I guess the usual spiel I say is, my name's Morgan. I'm from Ohio in the U.S. I've been living in Paris for almost 5 years now. And it was a quarter-life crisis that I like to say that brought me here. It was only supposed to be for 1 year, but obviously 5 years later, I never left.
Hey, I'm Amanda. I am also an American, originally from a small town in Western Massachusetts, but we say Boston to make it easier. And I moved to Paris 5.5 years ago. I always, was obsessed with French culture. I started learning French when I was 12, president of the French club, the whole thing. Minored in French. And then, I just always felt like I needed to move here. And so finally one day I decided if I don't do it now, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. So it's time to go. So I became an au pair, quit my job, sold everything that I owned, and became a nanny at the age of 27 in Paris. And I worked as global sales enablement for tech companies, and now I'm going full-time with this content thing. So that's me.
I'm so excited for both of your adventures in content creation and hopefully soon a podcast. Yes?
I think now I have the mic, so...
Now you've got the
equipment.
I'm like halfway there.
Honestly.
That's the way to start anything, right? Like you buy the stuff first, like, oh, I want to start golfing. Let me buy 5 cute outfits. And then I'm motivated to start.
But literally, like I started adult ballet this year, mostly because I wanted this like pink sweater thing. And now I'm taking adult ballet classes. So like, honestly true. So
amazing.
I'm so excited to launch this part of your new career journey. I loved hearing the two of you talk about your experiences on TikTok. So I'm so thrilled you are extending that to the This Is Fine community. I would love to start this off by jumping right into it with your top 3 favorite parts of living in Paris and maybe the top 3 things you miss from home.
Maybe we can ping pong this one. So the biggest thing for me, like Amanda said, we're both from small towns, and something about Paris, which I'm sure you can get in any big city, is how international it is. And, obviously we found an American community here, but we have friends from all over the world. And that really gives the opportunity to be able to meet people from different cultures and get an understanding of these cultures. And through that, get to know yourself a little bit more too.
I would say Paris is literally the most beautiful city in the world.
Amen.
I mean, I haven't been to all of them, but I'm willing to put my life on the line and say that it is. So even when you're doing like a mundane task, just like going to the grocery store or like picking up something, it feels like you're walking through a museum 24/7. And because of the Haussmann architecture, it's very uniform. Like, you're in Paris. You can even be on like a random side street that's like kind of gross, but you look up and you're like, this is Paris. And I feel like that's very rare. Like, not every city has that. So it's like you're literally surrounded by beauty constantly, and history as well. So I love that feeling.
That is so true. And obviously I don't live there with you guys. I've been like 6 times to Paris. It's my favorite place to go. And you guys know this now, like huge Francophile, love Paris. My favorite thing when I go is literally just walking, just being there and enjoying and absorbing the ambiance and the energy and the beauty. Like you said, like you look anywhere and it's unmistakable exactly where you are. It's just awe-inspiring, truly.
I think kind of just going off of what both of you were saying too, it's hard to really describe, but just the lifestyle, the culture in general, the way that life is here is so much different than in the US. It's a lot more, the people are active, you're wanting to actually go out and do things, and just walking around, admiring the city, getting the after work drinks. It's different than, the typical happy hour in the US, and just all these little different small pieces about the culture and the lifestyle in general here that come together. It's just an amazing feeling.
Yeah. Okay. So going off of what Morgan was saying, like the vibe in the city, the way that I would describe it is you don't need plans in Paris. Like when I leave my house, like on a Saturday, for example, most Saturdays I leave my house dressed, heading out. I don't really know where I'm going. I have like a general idea, but I am 100% going to find something to do, and I'm going to find people that I know. I think of Paris as like a college campus. I swear to God, because even though it's huge, the area where the people live, like where like people our age live, is quite small. And so you can walk the whole thing from one end to the other in like 2 hours, depending on what you're doing. So because it's such a walkable city, especially when the weather's nice, you just leave your house and you could end up literally anywhere. People will be messaging you and you'll link up with someone over at this park, or you'll walk over to this museum. And I feel like 95% of the time when I leave my house, I don't have plans, but I end up doing things or meeting up with people. Like, it's very organic because you just walk and stumble upon something. Whereas I feel like in the US, you have to be like, okay, we're meeting at this bar at this time. And it's like the only bar on the street.
There. Yeah.
You're literally describing a dream to me. Like, everything you just said, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going. No, I love that. It just naturally evolves and you're living in the moment. That feels like a very present way of living.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing.
I would love to hear your top 3 things that you miss from the States.
The biggest thing for me, I say general pleasantness. Anytime you have to interact with someone at a store or make a phone call for, the super annoying things, like the people in the US just have this overall general pleasantness to them. And sometimes in the French culture, they say that Americans are being fake or we seem very fake. But I really disagree with that because I think there's a difference between being fake and being kind.
Yeah. Totally.
It's kind of a stereotype that the French can be rude, which isn't always the case. There's plenty of lovely, happy French people. But there are times where you have some sort of interaction with someone here that it will put me in a bad mood just because they're being kind of rude for no reason. And it's like, why are you doing that?
Like cold or standoffish.
Why do you have to make things so... Yeah. And in the US, just, small talk. Sometimes when I go back to the US, just the general small talk will put me in such a good mood since I'm not used to having it.
Yeah. I feel like especially from the Midwest, which is like the sweetest people ever.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's got to be a big difference.
Yeah. And I would say it's almost the same answer, right? My first thing that I wrote was customer service. I can't be wrong all the time, every time. Like, what is that? Do you know what that does to a person? Like, do you know what I mean?
The customer is always wrong in France.
No, I'm serious. And like, they will never, if they're wrong, they won't admit it. And they purposely make things difficult. Like, if I had to give you an analogy for what it's like dealing with a French person who they either have what you want or they have the service that you need or they have the answers. Like if you're the one needing something from them, it would be as if there's like a piece of paper next to them and they're like, you're like, oh, can you hand that to me? And they're like, sorry, I don't see it. Like, no, I can't reach. And you're like, it's right there. Like you can hand it to me. And they're like, oh, sorry, what paper? C'est pas possible. And I'm like, I know.
That's the French motto.
And like, they will let you, like, for example, if you miss like, you can mispronounce a word, but they clearly know what you're saying. And they'll be like, I don't know what that is. And then they'll go, oh, you mean this. But like, it was so obvious. Do you know what I mean?
Right. They're being difficult on purpose.
Yeah, and they enjoy it. Like, it literally brings them pleasure. And I'm like, why would badness make you happy? Like, that's
like
crazy.
They will literally treat you like you're inconveniencing them to have to do their job.
As someone who personally is getting over the symptom of feeling like I'm just an inconvenience, like I'm a living inconvenience, that would be very difficult for me.
Yeah, maybe you're switching your mind about coming. You're like, oh, wait, this all sounds great. This not so much.
Wait, triggering.
Like, it's so bad that one time I had this guy I was like trying to renew my visa, or no, it was my taxes. This is how bad it is in France. This guy one time was so like civil with me. Like, I wouldn't even say he was overly kind, but he was just like normal, that I sent him a card in the mail and thanked him. I swear to God. And he like emailed me and he's like, thanks, I got your card. And I was like, yeah, because you...
I mean, Americans are like extra, but I also get what you're saying about kind of just, for us, the bare minimum is just basic kindness.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously not all Americans are sweet, right? Not all Americans are nice. But I did on one flight to France, it was Thanksgiving weekend and I knew that it was a really busy travel weekend. So I brought like chocolates for the flight crew. I do that every once in a while on a long haul. And on the American leg of the flight, everyone was so stoked and they were like, can we get you drinks? Like whatever. And I was like, no, this is just for you guys. And then the French flight attendant for Air France was like, what is this for? And I was like, c'est un cadeau pour l'équipe. And she was like, I don't get it.
Like so suspicious.
But what do you want?
So
like they think you have an ulterior motive. Yeah.
Right.
Like, and it's like, no, I'm just being nice. You should try it sometime.
This is just like how I am. She eventually, actually, one of the flight attendants came by toward the end of the flight and was actually really, really sweet, but it took them so off guard. Like even when I was in Saint-Tropez last summer, I kept saying, bonjour, comment ça va? And that's not a thing. Like, you don't ask, how are you, when you go into a store.
No.
They were like, that's an American thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've actually had French people specifically say that. Like, why do you always say, how are you? Do you really care? It's like, why do you care so much about if I care or not? Just say like, I'm fine. How are you?
Exactly.
And there's a thing in France, they have like the politesse, which is politeness. And they have like, they literally have rules for this. You know, part of it is that you always say bonjour before you start a sentence with anyone. And they're such sticklers for that, but it's just more about like having the rules for it versus actually being polite.
Yeah, totally. It's like the custom versus coming from... I feel like when I say, hi, how are you? I like to just gauge where people are at before I start a conversation with them, just to see like what the vibe is. I don't know. Just something I noticed and got called out for being extra American. But I love how you brought up the difference between just our general customs. And I feel like that extends into so many parts of everyday life. But clearly, it's not enough to deter you from loving Paris.
Oh, of course not.
Okay, good to know that the pros still outweigh the cons. And I know you guys talk about this a lot on your channels. There's a difference between overall French culture and Parisian culture. Would you say this is more true for Parisian culture?
I mean, yeah, it's really hard though, because we've only lived here. I've only lived here. I've traveled to the other regions, but I don't feel like I spent enough time there to really be able to comment on it.
For sure.
And the thing is, I feel like that's regurgitated from what other French people tell me. Like, they just always say, no, it's just Parisians like that. That's not how we are. But the thing is, a lot of the French friends that I have are not from Paris.
Right.
Obviously, they're my friends, so they're wonderful. But I don't know. That's what the people say. But I haven't spent that much time outside of Paris to really, and because in these situations when these things happen, we're talking like when I'm going to the prefecture to try to renew my visa. I don't know if the prefecture people are jerks in Bordeaux also, because they might be, because it's administration.
Right.
Like the guy at the boulangerie in Bordeaux was nice, but also our boulangerie guys are pretty nice. Like, it's more like those really like administrative situations or whatever, right?
Like the DMV.
So I don't actually know. Right, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. I feel like any kind of government organization here too is like everyone's just glaring at you.
Yeah, and same with the big city difference. I remember my French teacher when I first moved here. I was in a beginner's class, so a lot of people had just arrived in France, and yet she was still mind blown that we hadn't traveled outside of Paris yet, despite being here for like 2 months.
2 seconds.
But she was so overwhelmed, and she was speaking in French. She's like, but France is not Paris. Paris is not France. But like, you have to travel somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
So she was really, really reiterating that. So it's kind of the same in the US, which I know is at a much bigger scale. New York doesn't represent 90% of the US and the people there.
So true. And I do feel like, I mean, shout out to all my New Yorker friends. I have a lot of them, but I feel like New York is so much more aggressive than like San Diego, where I live, where it's like a completely different country.
Yeah,
okay.
Of course.
So obviously this was a bit of a cultural shock. And I also love, Morgan, that you brought up that you didn't start learning French. So Amanda, you've been speaking French since you were 12. Morgan, you moved to a new country without speaking French. How is your French now?
So honestly, it's not as good as it should be after almost 5 years, but I am finally at the point that I can confidently say that I speak French.
Amazing.
I can have a conversation. I can handle my appointments. I've done a few job interviews recently that were only in French. I can handle those things no problem. I don't speak perfect. I make mistakes. I'm missing a lot of vocabulary, but I can understand and I can be understood typically.
That's amazing. Did you have to take the DELF?
No, I haven't yet. So when I came here, I had to start French classes with my visa. It was a requirement. And I remember I was in the very beginner class because, again, never studied French for 1 minute before moving here. And the first day of class, I go in and I sit down and the teacher starts speaking to us only in French. And at first I thought it was a joke. So I'm kind of laughing. And then it goes on and she's still speaking French. So then I'm panicking. Like, am I in the wrong class? Because this is supposed to be the beginner class. And then we get worksheets with the alphabet. So I'm like, okay, wait, I am in the right class.
I'm getting mixed messages.
That's so, like, that must have, like, here's the alphabet, you idiot. Like, oh my God.
Because I took Spanish in high school. So I'm used to the way we learn in the US, at least at my school. I went to a very small, like, farm town school, but the teacher taught us in English. And here it's very immersive, which is amazing. I was able to learn pretty quickly through that. The first week was rough. I remember, it's so hard to sit there for 2 hours when you have no idea what this person's saying.
Yeah, you glaze over.
But then it was so crazy because I remember feeling like that at the beginning. But then within 2 weeks, even if I wasn't really understanding the words she was saying, I was following along with the concepts. And, it was really a great way to learn. And something too that I think from learning here from only native speakers has been really unique. I know some people who have studied in the US and they maybe have a stronger accent, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still have a very strong accent. I'm working on it. But I can kind of notice some of those differences sometimes. And it makes me really curious, how learning the languages when you've done it in the US versus doing it from the native speakers.
Yeah, like immersion method.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I can, like, speaking on that, because I started learning French in the US, the teachers that were teaching me were American.
Right.
So even though to me, I was like, wow, this is such good French. Looking back, like it
You're like, "No, it's
wasn't
not."
like their accents weren't like, like marvelous or anything. And so when I arrived here in France, my accent was garbage because I had I was like, it was like the blind leading the blind. Like I'm speaking, like me and my other American classmates are like, look at us speaking French. It's really good. Like we had no idea what we were doing. So I got here and I told everyone, I was like, yeah, I'm fluent in French. Like I'm Mrs. French Club president. And I got here and they couldn't understand me. They literally couldn't. And I was like the identity crisis. I was like, no, but I'm fluent in French. I don't understand. So I had to like relearn a lot of things. Well, really what I had to relearn was the accent and like my pronunciation. But because I had like the baseline of like grammar and structuring sentences, whatever, like that part made it very easy. But I had to like learn how to crawl all over again, basically.
Yeah, the accent is
honestly,
a whole
Amanda,
different thing.
I feel like I've noticed that your accent's gotten better since I've met you.
Oh my God, thank you.
Over the past few years. You're
That's
welcome.
such a compliment to a
This is a
Virgo.
difference too.
See, this is the blind leading the blind. It's another American.
Like she said, since she kind of knew those rules, I imagine you probably didn't have a lot of the same kind of hiccups like I did. Like a story that I like to tell was I learned what the French say for bless you when somebody sneezes after about a month. And Dominique, this also circles back to when you were mentioning, when you ask someone, how are you? You don't really ask strangers that. So the way you say bless you when someone sneezes, it's à tes souhaits, which translates to like at your wishes.
Your health. I'm thinking santé for cheers. Yeah.
Like,
okay.
À tes wishes. Yeah. So à tes souhaits. And so a woman sneezed on the metro and I so confidently looked at her and smiled and said, assis-toi, which means sit down.
Sit down.
À tes souhaits, assis-toi. And like the woman just stared at me so confused because even if a stranger sneezes next to you, even if your friend sneezes next to you and you're out in public, you might not say bless you. Yeah, you let them be. And so this woman was probably just so
sit down.
And that's just one of many hiccups that I've had to make over the years learning French.
I love that for you. Imagine like just being on the subway in New York and you sneeze and someone's like, sit down.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't think I've ever said à tes souhaits to anyone. I didn't even think about it, but it's so rude to not say bless you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
especially like the confidence. I was so excited to use that. And then I just get like rudely stared at and I'm like, okay, bitch.
You're like, I'm just using my perfect French.
Yeah, God.
Okay. So this language barrier thing, how does that tie into dating in Paris? Vous parlez français avec les mecs, or do they immediately switch to English?
So I mean, a lot of guys speak English and they want to speak English, which is whatever. It's a bit annoying. I've had a few arguments with guys because I'm like, I would like to speak French. And they say, no, but I want to practice my English. And I say to them, so move to the United States because I fucking moved here. I picked up my life and took my cat to Paris. So
I speak French.
Yeah. Like respectfully, I win. We're speaking French, you know?
But respectfully, tais-toi.
Exactly. Right. And they're so annoying because they're like, oh, well, you'll speak to me in this language and I'll respond in this one. And I'm like, but that doesn't help me. Right. Whatever. But so I've actually dated 2 guys who did not speak English, and that was really fun. Like it didn't work out, but that's so much fun because I'm a little trickster, and the moment I have like a good story to tell or something, like once I like need to talk fast and I'm like, all right, we're done with this, I need to switch to English. Yeah. If I can, I will every time. And so with those guys, I couldn't. And even though like it was a struggle, like I had to I had to tell my story slower. That was awesome because that never happens. That like never happens. Like I always have the option to switch, and I kind of wish I didn't, to be honest.
That's honestly so cool. What a crash course.
I know, right?
And also getting to know someone in a different language. Like, was that a completely different experience, like romantically?
I mean, Morgan, tell me if you agree, but I feel like there's always this feeling that like I'm definitely missing something. Like if he goes on for 3 minutes, I'm like, I got the gist. But there have been times where I've like missed important details. So I'm also like, he could be confessing like his childhood traumas. And I'm like, oh, so you have a sister, like. It's a little scary, because I'm nodding. So he's like, oh, she understands,
Right. And you're just like, I'm really trying to keep up with what you're saying. Morgan, do you have any similar experiences with the language barrier?
So usually my dating I've done in English, and maybe, we'll use some French here and there. It took me probably 3 years until I got to the point that I could actually kind of converse in French versus a few short sentences. But I know when I first moved here, I started dating a guy pretty much immediately. And, French wasn't the option. That was not an option at all. I spoke nothing. So we spoke English. And I remember a lot of times we'd each probably try to be funny, but the joke just wouldn't register with the other person.
Oh, that's the worst.
Whether it was like me not understanding his English or like him not understanding whatever I was trying to say. And, then you'd have to repeat it. But then when you have to repeat, the joke's not funny anymore.
Right.
So then you're just like, no, just forget it. But they're like, no, I want to understand. And then you're like, no, I was just trying to be funny, but now it's not funny
anymore. Right.
You're playing this tug of war, and then you finally say it, and then they're like, oh, exactly. See,
you're right. It's not funny anymore.
Yeah, and like with him specifically too, looking back, his English was not good when we first started. But since that was the only option, it's fine. But something too, is kind of using French sometimes now, it's still a little hard to have your personality when speaking your second language that's not fully mastered. Like when I speak French and I can make a French person laugh, there's no better feeling. It's such a confidence booster. You're like, all right, yes, I did this.
That's amazing. Yeah, because it's so true. There are far fewer words I have found for expressing emotions in French versus English.
Yeah,
right?
Like, absolutely. There's no way to say, what's the word? Oh, sweet. There's no way to say, oh, that's sweet. Like, when a guy slides into your DM and he's like, you're so beautiful, Amanda. And I reply and I'm like, oh, that's very sweet of you. There's no way to say that in French. And when you ask a French person, they say like you're kind. Say, no, there is mignon. And I'm like, that means cute. And they say, adorable. Yeah, that means adorable. No. Keep trying. There is no way to say it.
There's a difference. Yeah, there's so much more nuance in the emotional vocabulary in English, I think.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I just thought of something. You had asked about issues with the language thing. I just remembered. I've had fights with boyfriends over expressions in English that they don't understand and they misunderstand and they get mad at me. Or like if one thing means a certain thing in French, it means something different in English. Even if we're saying it in our own languages, the context, they think it's the French one or vice versa. So here's an example. When you're French, if you say that you're drunk, like je suis bourré, j'ai bourré, that means you're like wasted, like out of control, wasted. But the way that we, in English, when we say I'm drunk just means like I'm one step above tipsy.
Yeah,
like,
you're a little buzzy.
I'm drunk all the time. Drunk doesn't mean I'm belligerent. But in French, it does. And I didn't know this. And I got into a huge fight with my ex-boyfriend because we were drinking all day. I mean, Dominique, we were drunk. We might as well have been belligerent. And I was like, we shouldn't talk about this when we're drunk. And he was like, I'm not drunk. And I was looking at him and I was like, dude, we've had like 4 bottles of wine. Like, yes, you are drunk. And he's like, no. And he kept saying, I'm in control. I'm not drunk. And I was like, bitch, no one said you're not in control, but you are obviously drunk. And this was the fight. And it took me like a year later that it occurred to me that because when I said drunk, he thought I was insinuating like he's like off the rails, but that's obviously not what I meant. So I feel like those little things happen pretty often where their meanings are different.
Yeah, it's such a subtlety. I wouldn't have known that. I thought bourré was just drunk, like normal. I've had like a few glasses.
Bourré is like you're on your way to jail, like
bourré, jail.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and there's more little things like that as well, where like you can and the thing is because they either have a similar phrase in French or like they think they understand it, they're not like neither of you is thinking could this be a miscommunication thing because you're like no, we have that word in our language too, but you have to remind yourself like do the words mean the same thing in our languages though? Because sometimes they don't.
There's so much subtlety that you have to watch out for. That's so wild and not something that you think about until you experience it.
Exactly.
Wow. And same with things that are like similar, just expressions and idioms and things like that you have to learn. Like, for example, one of the things that you would say in French is like to say like you're down for something. So like I'm down. You say like je suis chaud, like I am hot. Yeah. So like, or if you say je suis excité, that does not mean you're excited for something casually.
I like yelled that in a Chanel store once because I was so excited to be there. And I was like, oh, je suis trop excité. And they were like, okay,
God.
honey.
Like, no.
Fortunately, I was like in my early 20s and like I could overcome the embarrassment a little more easily. I think I would like throw myself into traffic if I did that today.
Yeah. So all the little things like that too, it's hard to kind of navigate sometimes.
Yeah, totally. And it's like a cultural difference within language. Wild. So keeping on this dating thing, because you guys have so many fun stories, in your experience, how have French men perceived American women? Like, what impression do you get as an American dating in France?
Oh, they love us. They absolutely love us.
Oh.
Okay, so like this is, I don't want to like make generalizations, but French women are very, you chase me. You know, they're too cool for school. Like French women have this thing where they don't really I feel like they don't pick on themselves. And I feel like Americans are very self-deprecating and we're very
totally.
honest and like we're not shy. And I feel like French women have they have like a very put together kind of image that they want to maintain. And like, this isn't everyone, right? But like, I feel like it wouldn't be very common for a French woman to like admit that she's had Botox, for example, right? Whereas I will like make a video showing you while I get my Botox. Do you know what I mean?
And you have.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I feel like French men, like I've literally had French men tell me like a girl in a bar would never walk up to them. Like she might like look and then like turn away and like they love the game. They love the chase. And I feel like they're kind of, like they get like I feel like they can be a bit sassy. Do you know what I mean? Where I feel like we are so fun loving and easygoing. So I've had French guys tell me like that they love dating Americans because we're chill, like we're easygoing. We're here for fun. We'll roll up our sleeves. We'll get dirty. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's not what they're used to. So I think the French man, American girl trope is a very good one.
Love that for all of us, and I'll see you soon. BRB getting on a flight. Morgan, do you have a similar experience?
Yeah, it's definitely, I agree with everything that Amanda's saying. And then at the same time, it's not like, I think a lot of times it's perceived, like they have this idea almost reverse of like, oh la la, the American girls. It's not so much that and that they're like necessarily specifically looking for one, but once they can start talking to us, we're definitely a good time, easygoing, everything's going off like what Amanda was saying. But yeah, they still, I don't know, obviously still haven't found a keeper, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're
the quest continues.
You shouldn't ask us. We're literally so single. Like, I have no idea if they like us. They clearly don't, because
You're dating,
are we
you're
the
out
problem?
there.
No.
Is it me? Am I the problem?
No, definitely that's not it for sure.
No, but you hear so much. I feel like I hear so much similarity from other, creators and YouTubers that, it's like American girls, they do like to have fun. They're open. They're laid back. They're here for a good time, not for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think that what you guys are doing is so fun. You're exploring and you're putting yourselves out there in a completely different culture. Like, hello, bravery. That's not something that most of us do.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely cool. Although it feels more like home now, to be honest.
That's so rad.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I've spent the majority of my adult life living here.
Wow.
I was only out of university for 1 year and then I moved here. So
does that feel so crazy to say, like, I've spent most of my adult life in Paris?
Yeah, it really is. And, as I'm getting older, sometimes I'll think about it and be like, oh, okay, so this is now 1/6 of my life spent here, but
wow,
1/4 or something that I actually remember. And, I think, I don't know if I mentioned before, but I was only supposed to be here for 1 year. That was the initial plan. And obviously I didn't expect to see myself here now, but it's really great.
Is it hard being away from your friends and family from the States?
For me, yeah, sometimes it has its moments for sure. I was close with a lot of my mom's side of my family, and my friends, it's a little different now because as we've gotten older, everyone's a little dispersed through the US anyways.
Okay.
So it's not like I necessarily would be seeing them all the time as is, but it's more, I'm not homesick in the sense that I would want to be there, but it's more when I see certain events or gatherings that are not as easy for me to go to, obviously. Sometimes if my college roommates take a trip together, they're actually going on one in like a week or two. And it's just not really feasible for me logistically, financially. Same with family gatherings, big holidays, and family vacations, things like that. It's, you kind of have to pick and choose what you go for. And so those are the things that are really hard sometimes when you're away for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say for me, again, I don't want to be back there, and I'm not super close with my family, and I feel like my life is really here now. Like my closest friends are here. Like this is where I'm at. Yeah. But the thing that I think is the hardest is, well, first of all, I had 2 friends who lived in Paris and I met them here. I actually took their apartment, so I'm in their apartment right now. And they left and they moved back to the US. But like, she was the first person I met in Paris ever. So if like she's like part of my Paris life, but now they're back in the US. So that feels weird, like to have them be gone. And then on top of that, a lot of my friends have kids, babies. And the thing with babies is like you have minutes, you have a small window to see them as a baby. So, I mean, literally, because then they move on to the next stage. So, like, there's a couple of my friends' kids that I never got the chance and never will get the chance to see them as a baby. And now they're like, you know, they're the running around spilling stuff age. And I'm like, no, I wanted to see you at the baby age. And I can't do that now.
Right.
So that's, and like one of my other best friends, I've never seen her pregnant. I know she was pregnant, but I never got to touch her pregnant belly. And I'm like, that like, there's no taking that back, you know?
Right.
No, yeah, just going off what Amanda was saying, like my brother and his wife had a baby 1 month before I came here. And I was home last summer and we all went out to dinner together. And, you know, so he's almost 5 now, or he was 4 during the summer, and he has no idea who I am. And my brother was saying, he's asking me, he's like, how long have you been there now? And I just pointed at his kid. I'm like, that long, because he was born 1 month before I came here. And so it's kind of hard because obviously, you know, some of my other family members that were kids and have grown, I keep a relationship with them. But my nephew was a baby and now he's about to start school and I have no relationship with him.
Wow. When you have those moments where you are, you know, feeling maybe a little melancholy, a little bit, you know, longing for home, homesick, that's the word I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. Do you lean more into the things that you love in Paris? Like, do you go just like grab a pain au chocolat and like walk on the Seine? Or do you do something that reminds you of home? Like, what's your way of coping with that homesickness?
I'll go with something that reminds me of home. You know, luckily we live in the day that there's so much technology available to us. So I'll FaceTime someone, or I'm from Cincinnati and we have a restaurant called Skyline. And it's basically a chili parlor, and they sell the chili in cans that I always stock up on and hoard.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh yeah, I have like 4 left, so I'm due for a restock.
Rationing the chili, I love it.
No, that's literally what I do. So I save it for special occasions to share with people that I love here. Like Amanda had a Christmas party, and that was one of the special occasions. You know, it was all of our good friends there, and it's something that's so valued to me. This is liquid gold to me. You know, I have to mule it over here all the time. So it's something I want to share with someone, or if I'm really kind of having one of those moments, enjoy it to myself.
That's one of the sweetest things I've ever heard in my life. Thank you for sharing that with us. No, truly, like I'm laughing because I'm just so happy that you have something so special.
I feel like I don't often feel homesick. And if I do, it'll be because I'm missing a specific person. So I'll just message them and I'll berate them to come visit me. Or I will, or I'll pull up Google Flights and be like, you know, because that's what I do pretty often. If there's a round trip flight to Boston for like under 400, I'll be like, I'm unemployed right now. I could go. And then, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out, but like if the timing worked out, like I could do that. So I just message them and I say, you know, when are you going to come here, or how can I get there, type of thing.
Wow. I've heard that flights are cheaper from the EU to the US versus the other way around.
I don't know. I feel like they're
about the same.
Yeah, I feel like they're about the same. I mean, whenever I've gone from Paris to Boston, I think the lowest I paid was like $330, and then the highest was like $600 once or something. But it's usually within that range. Yeah,
I think it can really vary. I remember, I think it was summer 2019. All my college roommates ended up coming to visit me, and Cincinnati randomly had round trip flights for like $300.
Wow.
My friend lived in Erie, Pennsylvania, and she ended up driving 4 or 5 hours to Cincinnati because the flight was so cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only seen that happen once, but you can usually find, pretty decent prices. I think it just fluctuates on the timing and
When I find them for $500 from California, I'm like, I will sell everything I own. I don't even care. Like, if I have to quit my job for this, like, I'm buying this flight.
Oh my God. I just checked, like, because I'm curious. In March, there's round trip from Paris to Boston for $277.
You got to go.
Wow.
That's for free.
That's basically free.
They're giving it away.
It's just giving it away for free. That's crazy.
Literally free.
Good Lord. No, but I'm in Thailand at that time, so.
Oh, fun.
Also, I'm like, this is something that like I need my people from home to understand. Like, you don't leave Paris in the spring. Like you absolutely do not.
No, it's
like,
the best time.
You
It's
like
so beautiful.
I cannot leave. Like I'm contractually obligated to be in this city from April until like the end of July. Like I can't move.
Yeah, it's illegal.
It is. It should
Spring
be.
really is the best. Just going off of that, I know Americans love fall. It's a real, I don't know why, American thing. Especially Amanda, I know you're from the Northeast. That's like the fall capital of the world.
Yeah,
totally.
But people always ask when's the best time to come to Paris? When's my favorite time? And I always say spring. It's one,
for sure.
I love the cherry blossoms. It's beautiful. But beyond that, there's this energy in Paris in the spring that doesn't exist any other time of the year because it's not too hot. In summer, we have heat waves and sometimes it gets ridiculously hot. And a lot of places in Paris don't have air conditioning. So you're just a sweaty, sticky, uncomfortable mess constantly. And then winter, it's cold, whatever. But spring is so great because beyond, the decent weather, everyone's been hibernating basically all through winter. And once you start having nice days, every single person that lives here is outside. They're on the terraces. They're sitting in the park. They're sitting along the Seine. Yeah. Everyone. There's like a burst of dopamine that here. Yeah.
And the thing is like that's my favorite part about Paris is picnic culture. There are no open container laws. There's no open container laws in Paris. So like literally every single day of the week, like Morgan can back this up, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in the group chat, okay, meet you at the Louvre after work, meet you there. And every single day, me and all my friends and also every other young person in the entire city goes to the Louvre. You lay your picnic blanket down. As you're walking, you pass 10 people because everyone's there. There's dogs, people have wine, and you're either at the Louvre or on the Seine or at some like area of grass, and you're just there until it gets dark, and then you go home every day.
That's like,
it doesn't matter. It literally could be a Monday, but like we're just all mentally like, yes, we're outside. That's what we're doing.
It sounds like I
we'll
just
text each other and be like, who wants to go sit in some grass? That's what we do. We just meet outside and just sit in the grass.
Everything you guys just said sounds like I connected my REM cycle to Chat GPT and it just like printed out like a description of what my dreams look like. When I was there in August, it was one of my best friends, like first time exploring there. And I was like, oh, we got to do as many picnics as possible. And we spent the whole day walking from the 8th to Jardin de Luxembourg. And on the way, we stopped at like a fromagerie, we stopped at a wine shop, we stopped at a boulangerie, and we picked up little things and then just hung out at Jardin de Luxembourg with like a book and our treats and just had like bread, wine, cheese. And it was the most blissful day of possibly my entire existence.
It's amazing.
And you guys do that all the time.
We don't go out in the summer. We just, drink during the day into the evening, and that's how it is. It's so great too, especially like, it'll be a nice Saturday and it's like, okay, picnic at this place at this time. But then throughout the day, everyone will kind of shows up at different points. So there's always this new energy being brought, and it's just open invite, like bring anyone because, you're not worried about space or whatever. So, man, this is making me so sad.
I'm so excited for picnic season though. No, but every year in February, it randomly gets hot for like a week because every year that I've been here, I've picnicked on the Seine in February at least once. Like it's going to happen.
Wow. The fake out summer week.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That means we're due.
Okay, circling back to a little unrelated at this point, but how we found each other was the TikTok that you guys shared about the things that give you the ick when you are dating French men. And I thought it was hilarious. I immediately was like, please start a podcast. For those who haven't seen it yet, I will be linking this video in the show notes so you can go click and watch it. But if you're listening right now, let's talk about some of those icks and then we'll finish it positive with like things you do love about dating French men.
Yes. Okay. So we can just go through some of the video notes. We had 2 parts, but some of the main ones. First, very obvious, the smoking. It's really not a stereotype here because it's so true how much people smoke. Young people. It will be winter and people are sitting outside. There's no more heaters. There used to be heaters on the terraces. They're banned now. And people still sit outside in their coats on a terrace because they want to smoke. And it's really bad.
Yeah, that's like, I don't know if that's an American thing, but I'm so grossed out by cigarettes.
Yeah, same. like, yeah, I think the DARE program really got through to us.
DARE hit us hard in the 90s.
Like, it really did, man. Like, God.
Honestly,
they start so young. You see
was
kids in
third
parks
grade.
that definitely look like,
Or second grade.
they look so
that
young.
breaks my
And
heart.
they're skipping the vape. I know vape culture's gotten really big in the US with preteens,
which is also not
but
good.
no, they're just straight cigarettes here.
Oh man, that makes me so sad. I've lost a lot of family members actually to smoking related cancers. So I just personally am just, it's more than an ick. It's just a big ick.
It's a big ick. Yeah. And it's not everyone, but a large percentage
lot.
of them do. Yes.
Yeah.
Another one that I would say that we didn't actually say this in the TikTok, but Frenchmen get angry, like they lose their tempers, and in French culture, getting mad is seen as like you're allowed to get mad. Anger as an emotion is not shameful. It's like a good thing, and it's kind of like almost, I don't want to say a respect thing, but it's regarded as like you're like look at him, he's laying out what he's feeling, he's getting mad, but what that means is like Frenchmen will like raise their voices and like yell and like their faces get all red. And like, maybe it's because like as in the US, anger is not a good emotion. Like you're supposed to, like if you lose your temper, it's like, oh, look at that guy. Like he can't control himself. So like you have like men throwing full on fits and like getting like so flustered. Like they, like, especially with this customer service thing, it's French culture to argue. Like on one of my videos, I had French people commenting because I was complaining about this woman who was evil at the restaurant. And the French people were like, well, you're supposed to like tell her, you're supposed to like yell at her and tell her that she was wrong. And I was like, I'm not going to yell at her. Like, you crazy? Like confrontation. I'm not going to confront
what do you
her.
mean?
Like,
absolutely not.
but so like in French culture, getting angry, like, but like, to me, I'm just like, you, like these little man children are like getting mad, like really mad. And I've like never seen someone get mad the way that a French man gets mad. Do you know what I mean? Like even my host, when I was an au pair, like the host dad would like get like I can like just like red in the cheeks mad. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, calm down. Like it's like not that serious.
It's not that deep. I have a lot of Italian family, so I can kind of relate to that.
Yeah,
actually.
I feel like it's similar vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
And the complaining, and not the complaining, but the noises. Boof, biff, well, like that's all. That's not words,
The oof,
bah, boof,
boof.
Yeah, those like the French just have these mannerisms that are like not real. I don't know. They're kind of funny.
Another one that I really, really hate. They all have neck beards, which it's such a common French look. When you picture the French man, and Amanda mentioned one, they have shaggy hair. They have a neck beard. They're smoking, but the neck beard
and their shirts unbuttoned, three buttons with the chest hair every time.
Bother me so much. So
I don't
much.
like beards at all. So yeah,
not a beard girl.
I don't like beards either. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of beards either. But even if like, why is it going all the way down your neck?
Why is it going so far?
Like it doesn't look good.
So we're into a more clean-shaven look.
Yes, very much so.
That's me. Yeah.
Okay, so on the opposite side of ick, I don't know what the word for that would be, like making hard eyes at something. Like, what is the opposite of an ick?
Yeah, we were going to do another video on this. We haven't recorded it yet, but
are we getting a sneak preview?
So like things we love about French guys, because you know what, people were getting so angry about these icks, and it's like, shut up, it's not that seriously, whatever.
Right, it's not that deep. It doesn't mean we don't like people. Yeah,
just laugh. There's
differences.
You know what? We also made one about American guys, so there's icks about everyone. We just hate everyone. But no, it's not that. These small things are, not really that important, except the smoking. But there's obviously plenty to love about French guys. And I would say the biggest one for me is that you can actually have a genuine conversation with Frenchmen. They're really excited to talk about, I don't know, culture or art or just any kind of discussion topic that's not super surface level. They're ready to talk. They're ready to have a debate or get into any type of discussion with you. And it's something that I didn't really experience with anyone when I was living in the US.
Yeah, totally. That level of like intellectual and emotional engagement. That's really cool.
Yeah, the French are very philosophical. They like discussing topics just for the sake of discussing them. And they're happy to debate. Like, I feel like in the US, we sometimes like we tiptoe around touchy subjects, or like we're so worried about like, being politically correct. Whereas French people will have a full-on debate about a topic. And at the end, you don't you don't have an agreement. You neither of you have decided who was right, who was wrong. You were just discussing to discuss. And that's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a very, most of the time, like a very respectful way. You know, it's not like we're not fighting about this. We're debating and we're disagreeing, but we're hearing each other out. And yeah, that's definitely something really different.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say like the romance thing is 100% real. And like what I mean by that is the French, like Frenchmen are, you know, they're not shy to admit they're looking for something serious. They, you know, having a girlfriend is a normal part of life. They love having a partner. They'll spend time with their partner. They'll prioritize you. I feel like in the US, a lot of American guys, they might have that like, you know, bros first mentality. French guys are like, no, I'm here to find the woman of my life, you know? and so like,
love it.
Like their friends are, you know, cool, but like they prioritize the relationship. And I have found this with like every French person I've met. Like they'll be like, what are you looking for? I'm looking for the woman of my life. That's, you know, that's what they say in French.
Wow.
And so it's like, wait, like because, you know, in the US, I would have to be like, yeah, like, you know, I'm just looking for something casual, bro. Even though I totally wasn't, you know what I mean? Because I had to be cool. You don't have to be cool over here. Like, they're like, yes, I'm looking for the woman of my life. I'm looking for the feeling. And you're like, wow, cool, me too. And they're very affectionate, very lovey. Like they send emojis, but it's not like, obviously there's examples where it is overkill, which is like love bombing. But I'm talking like regular, normal, everyday guys will be like lovey and show you that they're interested. And on the first date, they'll be like, so when can I see you again? And it's not like pushy. It's just like straightforward. You're like, wait, but there's no trap here. Like they want to date you and then they just date you. Like it's really, it's refreshing, honestly, compared to, you know, in the US, you can have a fake boyfriend for a fucking year and he's not your boyfriend. I mean, I dated a man.
You're just friends.
I dated a man for a year. I went home with him for Christmas and he was not my boyfriend. What do you mean you're not my boyfriend? What the, like that's, do you know what I mean? So it's way just better here in that sense.
Yeah, and disclaimer on that, there's definitely still French fuckboys, but they're also the guys that are going to be like that and be very open, you know? Whereas in the US, they're still going to like kind of tiptoe around it. Like, oh, I don't know, like, let's just see where things go. Or like, oh, like, why do we have to make it so serious? Or why do we have to put a label on it? But if the French guy's actually interested in you, he's very, very open if they're like that. Yeah. And not the fuckboys.
Would you say that's the biggest difference between dating a French guy and an American guy?
Yeah, I would say so. Because I've talked about this in one of my other videos, but they have, having a girlfriend is not like as serious of a thing. So if you go on 2 dates with someone, that is your boyfriend.
So if you're doing that, like you've had 2 dates with someone and in their mind, you're an item now, you're a couple, but you want to explore outside that. Do you have to go through like a full breakup with someone you went on 2 or 3 dates with?
Well, it's kind of opposite as, you know, in the US where you said you talk to someone for a very long time and then you have to define the relationship. Here, it's opposite. At that point, it's not like a full-on breakup, but I was kind of going a different direction where if you're, you know, in the US, you have the defining the relationship point where you're usually, you've been seeing this person for a while, whatever. Going off what Amanda was saying, like how if you start to see someone and you kind of presume that you're together, it's more the opposite sense that in the US, like you have to clearly define ahead of time that this is not serious. Let's just be friends with benefits. Like this is super casual. And you're like, okay. Because if you are kind of going on dates and then start sleeping together, it's presumed you are in a couple. You're not seeing other people. You're not.
Yeah.
It's not as intense of,
Like it doesn't mean, like I feel like in the US, if saying someone is your boyfriend or girlfriend is like so serious. Like that's my, you know, but you're not going to talk about it. If I go on 3 dates with a guy, that is my boyfriend.
That's the default. Okay.
Right. But it's like, it doesn't hold the same weight. Like I have a lot of boyfriends, but they're not my boyfriend, right? And this is one of those things that's really confusing. But like, you know, one time I went on one date with a guy. No, maybe we saw each other twice. I didn't really like him. And I don't think he liked me either. And so we kind of just left it. Like I was just like, all right. And then I'm not kidding. A week later, I get a message from him. And he's like, hey, Amanda, how are you? Listen, I've been thinking, like, I don't think we should continue seeing each other. And I was like, wait, is this man breaking up with me? Like he thinks we're dating. And I was like, this was like when I first got here. So I didn't understand. And I was like, wait, how are you breaking up with me? We're clearly not dating. Do you know what I mean?
We're breaking up. I didn't know we were together.
Right. And then my host parents explained to me that, yes, we are dating. But that's why it's like, it's really complicated to explain. Like that can be my boyfriend, but he's not my boyfriend. I don't, like, it's really weird.
No, it's making more sense the more you say.
There was another time recently too. I'd started seeing this guy. I saw him twice actually. We went out 2 times and I just started a new job. I didn't text him back for less than 24 hours. And he sends me this novel.
This one, the door one.
He sends this novel like, well, I guess you've moved on, but I just want to let you know it was really nice getting to know you and like blah, 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 blah. And I just opened the message and I messaged him back. I was like, I mean, I don't think there was anything to really move on from. I thought we were still just getting to know each other. And then I was like, but clearly, you know, like, I can't give you this attention now. And he's like, oh, no, it's fine, actually, though. Like, as long as you just tell me. And I'm like, no. I was like, honestly, this was just kind of a lot for me. So I think it's best we just don't talk.
This is a bit much for me right now. Sorry.
No, thanks.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. You guys have shared some really amazing dating stories and examples. Do you have like the craziest dating story or like the juiciest? Okay.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
I've been ready for this all day. Okay.
I love this.
No, because this is like out of a fucking movie. And I still I wish Morgan was there in the bushes recording it. Okay. So it was the summer of 2019. And
set the scene.
Yeah, we need to set the scene, okay? So match with this guy on Bumble. He seemed kind of cute, whatever. We decide to, we meet to go on a date, and we decide to go to the steps of Sacré-Cœur.
I knew it was going to be the story. I knew it was
of course it's going to be the story. Oh my God. I hope he hears it and feels shame. No, but he barely speaks English, so he wouldn't understand it.
Okay, Papa sees.
So we go to the steps of Sacré-Cœur to like drink some wine, and I think it was like a Saturday evening or a Sunday evening. I can't remember, but it was like one of those like it's not going to be a nighttime date. It's like we're going to watch the sunset type of thing. And so I said, why don't we grab some wine and go there? And he was like, sounds good. So I go and I meet him. Immediately upon meeting him, he's like he doesn't look like as cute as I had suspected, but he's not. It's not bad, right? And I'm like, that's fine. Like whatever. I'm still happy to be here. We sit down, and he pulls out a bottle of red wine, and it was August, and it was hot. It was hot, and. It's like, I love red wine, right? Like, it's not a big deal. But I said to him, I was like, oh, you brought red wine. And he's like, oh, like, what's wrong with red wine? You don't like red wine? And I'm like, oh, no. Like, I was like, I love red wine. Just like, it's so warm. I feel like it's
100 degrees.
It's like heavy, And he's like, he goes, oh, well, I mean, I guess I'm a piece of shit. I chose the wrong wine. And I'm like, no, we're good. We'll drink the wine,
Whoa.
And like, that's like strike one. I'm like, I do not like those like, I'm sorry, incel, like self-deprecating comments. Like, no. So he's looking at me and he's like, you're so beautiful. Like, you're so much more beautiful than your photos. And I'm like, like, thank you, like whatever, and we're talking. And as I'm trying to tell a story, he keeps interrupting me saying, I'm sorry, I just can't get over how beautiful you are. And I'm like, oh, like, thank you. You're so sweet. But after like the 19th time, it's like, it's like uncomfortable at this point. And like, I don't know what else to say. And it's like getting weird, right? Then I'm talking, he does it again. And again, I just say thank you. Cause I'm just, at this point, I'm like, I'm trying to tell my story. Like, you're interrupting my story. Like, I don't care how beautiful I am. Like, let me talk. And at this point, this mother, I think he didn't, I know, I need to work on my swearing.
It's okay. You're safe here.
I think he thought that I didn't speak French because after he complimented me for the 900th time and I was like, yes, thank you. He goes, oui, et je m'attendais pour tu me dire la même chose, which means, and I'm waiting for you to tell me the same thing. But he kind of like mumbled it. And I was like, what was that? And he was like, oh, nothing. And I was like, okay, cool. And like, I understood him, right? So at this point, I'm like, you're complimenting me because you want me to like tell you you're hot back. Like, first of all, you're not.
So I'm compliment fishing.
Right. And it's so weird. Like, and like, it's like the epitome of a nice guy because don't tell me if you tell me that I'm pretty, it's because you feel that when you're looking at me, you want to tell me that. And you're telling me that with no like strings attached. You don't want anything returned. Right. Because compliments are free and they're unlimited. So you're doing it because it feels good. But this man wasn't doing that, like he was trying to like get me to do it back, which feels gross. And now I'm definitely not going to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that red wine became a red flag.
Right. Exactly. So then, he's asking me, this is something very important to mention about the French culture. The apps and the concept of being on the apps and like being on there, like looking for love on the apps is very newly accepted here because when they first came out, the mindset that the French have was kind of like, if you're on there, it's because like you need to be on there. Like that's the only way you can meet someone. So even when they were the apps existed. Like I was here in 2017, and even around that time, people were on it, but they wouldn't really talk about it. And like I would meet people in real life and they would say to me, well, why are you on the apps? Like you don't need to be. And I was like, wait, do you think people are on there because they need to be? Like I'm on there because I'm fucking, dude, I'm busy. And unless the man of my dreams lives in my fucking neighborhood, like how he's not going to
How am I going to meet him?
Right. Like, I'm like, this is not about like a need thing. It's about like a proximity and the time. Like there's not enough hours in the day. I can't go to every bar in Paris. Like, but that's the mindset, right?
Right.
So he was like, so have you been on the apps for a while? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, have you been on a lot of dates? And I was like, yeah. And he was like flabbergasted. He was like, really? Like, why have you been on so many dates? Like, what's wrong? Like, you just, you can't find a guy that's good enough for you. And I was like, no, it's not that. I've met a lot of really great men, but just like, it just doesn't feel right. Do you know what I mean? And he gets quiet for a minute, right? And then he goes, This guy had like murderer vibes. I swear to God. Okay.
Oh my
so
God.
he's like getting quiet for a moment, sipping his shitty red wine. And then he goes, Amanda, life is not a fairy tale. Not everybody is as perfect as you. Okay. And so I think it's really important that you give people chances because not everyone is going to be like you, but there's still good people out there. And I'm sitting here thinking like, sir, what? Like, first of all, I don't think I'm better than anybody. And if I'm not like dating someone, it's just because it doesn't feel right. And I don't want to force something. And what are you like sticking up for like the men I've dumped in the past? Like you don't know them. It's weird. It's very weird.
Yeah.
And so like there's tension between us at this point. And meanwhile, while we're sitting on the stairs, I mentioned that I lived around the area and he's like, oh, where do you live? And I'm like, oh, it's like just down there, like at the bottom of the hill. And he's like, oh, where? Like point to it. And I was like, it's just over there. And he goes, oh, well, like which street? Like, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to tell you where I live. Right. So the evening's getting tense. He keeps telling me that I'm beautiful and it's weird. He wants me to compliment him back. He's yelling at me, telling me life isn't a fairy tale and that not everyone is as good as me. And now I'm like uncomfortable because I'm like, I feel like you're so into me, but you're mad about it.
And like super insecure.
Right. And it's like, you're so hot, but I'm pissed. And I'm like, why? I'm like, it's weird vibes. So we're walking up to the top of the stairs and I'm like trying to get the fuck out of here. Right. This is the part. I can't. I get to the top of the fucking stairs and this man, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this was obviously a bad date, And so he's like, listen, like, I think he turns to me and he's like, listen, I think that we should see each other again. And I said to him, I'm like, listen, no, like, I don't think we should. And he's like, well, why not? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, it was great to meet you, but like, that was not a good time. I feel like we were arguing on the date. Like, I feel like there's a lot of tension between us and it's our first date. Like, we're not gonna make it work after the first date. Like, I'm sorry, but I really don't think we should see each other again.
Yeah. Honest and polite.
He looks at me, Dominique, this man looks at me and he grabs me. He puts his hands on my arms, like grabs me. And he's got this crazy look in his eyes. And he goes, j'ai fait mes études. Il faut que tu me donnes une deuxième chance. J'ai un CDI. J'ai un CDI. So what that means is I went to school. I have a CDI, which is a permanent work contract. You have to give me a second chance. He's yelling at me. I went to school and I have a permanent work contract. You have to give me a second chance. Holding my arms. And I'm like, bro, this is next level insanity. And when he put his hands on me, people around started looking, thank Christ. And then he kind of like removed his hand because I think he was like, I don't want to get in trouble. And I took that chance to book it down the stairs faster than I've ever run in my entire life. And I like took a weird way home and I think I was like crying because I was a little stressed out. Yeah. But like this man, can you like I have a full-time job. You have to give me a second chance.
Like what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. This guy is crazy.
Yeah. Like literally.
I don't even understand the logic. Like,
neither do I. I think I just lost my voice telling that story.
I'm so sorry.
It was worth it.
Really passionate
mic
story. We're submitting the script to Netflix.
No, but imagine going up to a man and being like, I'm sorry, I have my degree and I have a job. You need to give me a chance. And I was like, sir, if that's what you think the basis that people are looking for is, you're going to have a very disappointing life. But he clearly does. Like, I think he obviously views relationships with women as like very transactional in that sense. Because I very clearly said, I've met very interesting, nice people, but I'm looking for the feeling,
Yeah, you're looking for love.
Yeah, so that was the shocking one, the craziest one I've had here, I think.
I'm so sorry, dude.
I know. I mean, and then he put his hand on me too, and I'm like, what?
That's scary.
Sir? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you gonna like hold me down and make me date you? Like, it's no.
Yeah, the second you said he put his hands on you, I was like, oh, this is not going.
Yeah.
It's not going to end well. Yeah, scary vibes. Well, I'm sorry you went through that, but thank you for your service of sharing that story with everyone.
Honestly, no, it was worth the story. So
Yeah, it is for the story.
I love that approach to life.
oh God.
Morgan, do you have any crazy stories you want to share?
Honestly, no. And even if I did,
Okay,
I don't think I would be able to follow that one up. I feel very lucky that I really have never had any kind of nightmare date. There's been, some weird conversation or maybe, one's into it, one's not, kind of awkwardness, but nothing like that at all. Knock on wood, honestly. I'm dating right now, so.
So for the listener, it's not all like that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So back to the culture in general, we're just doing a 180 pivot to something else because that shook me a little bit. I'm kind of kidding, but there's something we talked about off air together was how much you guys love the healthcare system. Like going from like this crazy dating story, let's talk about healthcare.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's literally like people have made jokes about, like the Apple Pay sound where it's like the ding, ding, taking your French health insurance card and just going to all the doctor's appointments with it.
Yeah. So you guys don't pay for your doctor's appointments, right?
No, you do, but it's reimbursed.
Okay. But do you pay out of your paycheck for that?
No.
Taxes.
The Social Security, I mean, your taxes pay into it, but it's
Okay.
But it's not like every individual person like pays into Social Security with your taxes, but it's the same for everyone. Yeah, so that's that. And then, like for example, right now I'm unemployed. I don't have a paycheck, and I'm still in Social Security. Like I still have it. If that makes sense.
So you still have health care whether or not you're employed.
Oh yeah, as long as you live in France, everyone gets it.
Yeah. So even as foreigners, we were here with a visa. We were long-term residents with a visa. We're still entitled to that healthcare that every French citizen, the president to the homeless people are entitled to.
Yeah.
But then when you work for a company, it's called a mutuelle. And so that's where they're paying in to, maybe whatever something that the Social Security won't cover. I think Social Security usually covers at least, Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, like 70% or more at minimum of your health insurance or like any healthcare costs. And then if there's something that the basic, government healthcare won't cover, if you have a mutuelle, it usually covers the rest. That's reimbursed for you.
Wow, that's wild. Does it cover anything beyond healthcare? Like is Social Security there just healthcare or?
Well, I mean, it's dental.
But wait, there's more.
Dental, vision. But there's a whole list. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up. I have it right here. My little Alan, my Alan
and even
list
beyond that. Okay, so I did when I had to go to the ER before I was registered in the Social Security system, which meant when I went to the ER, I had to pay 100% out of pocket. I went to the ER for a visit. I had an X-ray, and my bill that I paid 100% out of pocket was 62 euros.
What?
Which is probably equal to like $65 right now.
Yeah.
Wild. Whereas in the US, when I was on my parents' insurance, which I don't think was the top, but it was a decent insurance plan. Just from the time I would check my name in at the front desk, not any kind of treatment they would give me, any kind of medication, instantly I had out of my pocket, I would get a bill for a $400 copay.
Yeah, it's between like $100 and $500 just to be there.
And also another one that I think of, I had the Nexplanon birth control put in when I was in the US and still had my parents' insurance. And that was covered with our insurance plan. So I didn't pay anything, but I was curious, if it's still under, I don't really know all the medical terms, but where it's like under trademark or whatever, it's only this brand. There's no generic at this point or whatever. Yeah. So I looked up how much it would cost in the US versus France paying out of pocket for the literal exact same thing. And it said, I looked this up a few years ago, in the US, you would expect to pay around $1,600 for the product. And that's not counting the doctor's visit that you would then go in for. Whereas in France, the cost was 106 euros for everything.
What the hell?
And that's where I'm just like, how is there this big discrepancy? It makes absolutely no sense.
It's so arbitrary here. Like it doesn't make sense.
An American could fly to Paris, so book a flight to Paris and come to the emergency room of the hospital here and give birth or have some sort of procedure done and fly back home like with nothing, with no insurance, with no social security. And it would probably be cheaper than doing it at home.
Holy shit, dude. So we're all moving to France. So when you are employed, you pay the Social Security tax. Do you remember what percentage it is?
I can pull up one of my pay stubs here. Not that I know how to read those.
That's okay. I'm just curious, logistically, especially if anyone listening to this, besides me, is I want to move to Europe. I want to move to France. This is just really cool information to know.
Yeah. And this is something Amanda's talked about healthcare a lot on her TikTok, more so than me. Yeah. And there's always some angry patriot American, that comes in and they're like, it's not free. No one says that it's free.
No one said it was free. I'm saying it's not paid out of my pocket the day of. Hello.
Right. Yeah. Which plus, back to that fact that I would pay $400 to visit the ER. That was with money being paid towards insurance every single month. Yeah. That was probably more than what we pay for the Social Security. Right.
Yep. Totally.
All right. So they don't make it easy for you to read your pay stub. It's very confusing. But what I'm seeing is Sécurité Sociale. So there's one charge. So this is a monthly, because in France you're paid monthly. I have one under the area where it's saying what was taken. Sécurité Sociale, there's one for 13 euros and then 89 cents and then €1.45.
Wow.
And then
I feel like it's gotta be more, no?
That's literally what it says. And then Sécurité Sociale Plafonnée, €8.55. Sécurité Sociale Déplanifiée, €1.90. We're looking at a total of $25 here, is what I'm seeing here. And then I pay into chômage, which is unemployment. So €4.20 per month, I'm thinking. I'm not sure. There's columns on my stub here, but they don't tell me what the columns are. It's kind of strange.
Okay. It's a guessing game.
Oh wait, Amanda, I just Googled something. Someone fact check me on this, but based on what I'm looking at on Google, it kind of breaks down everything that's covered in Social Security. So it's going towards, just for example, unemployment, that's a chômage, around 4% of your gross salary. Your pension, around 2%. Health, maternity, death insurance. I don't know about that. Okay, health and maternity, 13% out of what's being taken out. That's kind of the breakdown that this website's saying.
Yeah, assurance maladie, 13% or 7. So between 7 and 13%.
Health, maternity, yeah.
Right. And I'm sure
that's a lot less than I thought.
No, and so people always go off about our taxes and people think our taxes are 70%. They're really not. They're really not that different compared to the US.
Yeah, totally. Maybe I'm not good with American taxes either, but it kind of sounds like it's the same or less.
Yeah.
Ours
is definitely higher. It's 41% on, it depends on what you're paid, what your salary is, but 41% is what you can assume. But the other thing to keep in mind is, even though the US, I think it's a bit lower, the average American spends $10K out of pocket a year on health insurance. And if you take $10K out of $10K compared to the average salary, it ends up actually being the same, if not more. Americans are spending more.
Yeah, if you're making $40,000 a year, that's 25%.
Right, exactly.
Healthcare. Right, okay. Interesting. This is something we want to look into more. Okay, so last thing. Do you girls have advice for anyone listening to this who is okay, the picnic culture, the romantic dating, the beauty of the Haussmann buildings, the healthcare, I'm in, I want to go. What advice would you give that person, or even to you 5 years ago?
I say, just do it, because I think back to me at that point and I could think of a million reasons to not move here. Once I kind of started toying with the idea, I was saying, oh, I have student loans to pay for. I should focus on my career, blah, 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 blah. There's literally a million reasons for you to stay, but you just need to take the plunge and go for it. And you never really know what's waiting for you until you have the chance to discover it. And what finally kind of reassured me was knowing the fact that home would always be there, and my life and the people, that was the constant. And I knew if I got here and had a bad experience, I could very easily go back home. Getting here was the hard part. I did it. I got here. Like I mentioned earlier, it was only supposed to be for 1 year. 5 years later, I'm still here. So, that was the good thing to do it. So
Are you a lifer now? Are you Parisian for life?
I can't say for life, but for the foreseeable future, yes. So
Love
it's
it.
really just about, you know what, just pull the trigger and go for it. Don't look back.
Wise words, girlfriend. Thank you.
Yeah. So I would say two things. First, read The Alchemist. If you haven't, go buy The Alchemist and read it immediately, because it's a quick read. It's a short read, but the entire concept of the book is about when there's something that you know you really want to do, like a dream of yours, and the way that you can kind of like, you can use logic to kind of talk yourself out of it, but that dream is still there and it still sneaks up on you. And that, you find ways to be like, oh, I have a good job here, or, it's safer to stay here. But eventually, it doesn't go away until one day it does. And then you spend the rest of your life regretting it. And so when you finish that book, that's what I did. I read the book and I was like, oh, I'm going to Paris, because I knew I wanted to go. But that book, like at the end of the book, I was like, no questions asked. I must go now. It's a very powerful book. I've only read it a few times because every time I read it, I do crazy things after. So that's the first one. The second one I would say is, the reason that I was able to do it so quickly is because I had started the research a year and a half prior. I started my Google tabs, very, very organized with that Virgo energy.
Yes.
What are my work options? Where could I live? Like all the things I needed. And I started just playing around with it, getting the info ready. So that way, when it came time, when I had that moment where I was like, I'm ready, everything was done for me because I had researched it. And I started small as well. So the first thing that I did is I booked my plane. No, I didn't book my plane ticket. I made my appointment with the embassy. And it's like, I was going, I was like, you can still back out. It's just, you made your appointment with the embassy. It's okay. You can still back out. And then I was messaging families to become an au pair. And in the back of my head, I was like, but you can still back out, But like, it was like, I was warming up to the idea. Because I think if you go like balls to the wall, it can be a bit of a shock. And you can be like, no, I can't do this, can't do this. But if you if I kind of like slowly did it, and then it slowly became more real. And then I was like, all right, I guess we will start selling some furniture, and then, book that plane ticket. And even at the airport, I was like, this is okay. Like, this is fine. I can go back. But like, then it was real, right? So I feel like for me, I needed to like warm up to the idea, because I think even if you have an impulsive like desire at the moment, if the rest of your mind and body hasn't caught up, that like that logical part of your brain can try to like talk you out of it. I don't even know if it's logical, because I think the logical thing is the opposite. You can go. Yeah. It's that like fear, panic. Yeah. And you're almost like battling yourself. When you're making a huge change like this, you're battling your ego, your insecurities. And it's like, I know them. They're so convincing, So like, I have to like warm up to this. So yeah, I would say read The Alchemist. And just like Morgan said, just do it. Because what I can tell you is this: out of every single person that I've met in Paris who moved here, not a single one of them was like, I made a mistake, I wish I didn't come here. Every single person. You don't hear stories of people moving to Europe and being like, worst mistake of my life. That literally, like, it doesn't happen. Every single person says, changed my life, wish I did it sooner, I have new perspectives, I'm a better person. Like, no one comes home with their tail between their legs. Like, that should tell you something.
You're our therapist now.
Yeah, and I don't know, this was something that would really help me. I started telling people that I was moving to France, and that was also kind of partially convincing myself, because I'm like, if I say it out loud, then I'd be too embarrassed to be like, oh wait, no, just kidding. So then I was like, oh shit, I've already told everyone I'm moving to France. I guess I really have to do it.
I gotta do it.
Oh yeah, telling quitting my job, that was a big one, because it was like, there's no going back from that.
Yeah, true. Like, just kidding. I didn't actually quit. Sorry. Can I have my job back?
No, but I think there's something kind of like cathartic in like metaphorically burning bridges, if they're your safety bridges.
Yeah. Totally.
I'm happy I quit my job, because then I was like, you can't stay here now.
Yeah. You had to jump.
Yeah.
Love that. Also, I'm fully going to reread The Alchemist. I haven't read that since high school. So
oh my
thank
God,
you for that
please
recommendation.
Do. I might go read it right now too. I love that book.
I'm going to be your neighbor before you know it. That book.
I feel like in some weird ways, we're kind of like convincing you to come over here.
A little bit of this episode was like me therapy. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for friends. Do you want to be on my podcast?
Come join the college campus.
Amanda and I met from the internet. That's how we met each other.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's actually so cool. How long ago did you guys meet?
4 years. Is it going on 4 years?
I think this year will be 4 years. Yeah, this summer.
Wow, that is amazing. Like right after you got there, Morgan.
It was
The end of
a little less than 1 year after. Yeah. So I moved here in August 2018. I think we met, like June-ish, July 2019. Yeah.
Okay.
But before I moved here, actually, she had started a blog, and that's how I initially found her. So I found her blog just from Google searching. I initially came as an au pair as well, and
cool.
Stumbled on her blog, followed her on Instagram, sent a message before I came like, hey, just found your blog. Oh my God, we should be friends. And she's like, oh my God, yeah, let me know when you get here. And then never followed up until we ended up having some mutual friends, a year later. And it was super random. I think Amanda posted a TikTok about how we met, our story. If anyone's
that
interested
story,
in
you
the
should
full
go
thing.
watch that. That's
I'll link that in the show notes too.
Yeah, so that was
your beautiful love story.
Our first actual friend date, and the rest is history.
Yep, that's what they say.
That makes me so happy, and I'm just so grateful you girls took time out to share your story with everyone listening about French culture, your experience living there, dating, like just being a young woman and living your best life. Amanda, Morgan, merci mille fois. Je suis tellement reconnaissante. Thank you. Just thank you so much for joining us on This Is Fine.
Thank you so much for having us. This is amazing. And also, your French accent is fucking fire. So,
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, the secret is my French tutor is from Paris. So
Okay. There
so
it is with the native speakers. Yeah.
Yeah, when you guys were like the blind leading the blind, I was like, okay, I took classes in high school and my teacher was from France.
Okay, good.
I took, gosh, what was it? I did like a community college course like a couple years ago to like restart, way after high school. And she was from France, and then went to the French American school here to find like adult classes, and ended up finding a tutor from Paris. So I think everything I'm hearing is actually in like a regionally Parisian accent.
Yeah.
So I'm like mimicking that a little bit. But thank you so much. My tutor will be thrilled to hear this.
No, you absolutely do. And you can I can tell I can tell like where the regions kind of like, you can tell when someone's from like having a South accent or a North accent, and like yours it's very Parisian.
Oh my God, thank you. This is the best compliment ever.
Okay, yeah. Now you need to come visit us and get some practice. You're our new internet friend, so.
I love internet friends. Okay, we're doing an episode in like a few from this one where we're going to talk about the positives of social media, and I'm going to link back to this episode because making friends on the internet is really special, and
all of
I'm
my
just
friends.
so glad we connected.
I'm pretty sure every single one of my friends. No, literally, I'm looking around my friend group in my head. They're all from TikTok or Instagram. I swear to God.
That's amazing.
It's
not
like
all
being
bad,
a
you
kid.
guys.
Yeah, when your parents are like, don't talk to strangers on the internet. Internet's literally where I find friends, boyfriends, jobs. Everything is the internet now.
That's what happens when you don't live with fear, but you live with, I'm going to sound so cheesy, you live with love and optimism and your hopes.
Exactly.
So thank you for imbuing all of our listeners with your optimism, your romance from Paris. I am just so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Okay, before we sign off, we're finishing up today's podcast with the segment I introduced in our last episode. It still doesn't have a name. If you have any suggestions, let me know. But this is all stuff that I'm into right now and want to share with you. First on deck, the Wild Fox Skincare Boutique in Encinitas. This one is obviously for our local listeners. I'm so sorry to everyone outside the area, but oh my God. I just got the most heavenly facial from Liv, the founder and owner, who is actually a This Is Fine listener herself. She actually invited me to her sweet skin spa after hearing the podcast. So first of all, that made my year. And second of all, she's one of you. Listeners, they're just like us. So I went in for the treatment. It was a holistic facial, so there were a lot of unique elements involved. She gave me a couple mask treatments, including a collagen mask. Then there was some cupping and dry brushing. I believe that was for some lymphatic movement and drainage. Then the reflexology, which was my favorite. I felt like a baby being rocked to sleep. I don't know how else to describe it. It was bliss. She also made this gorgeous facial oil that I'm now using at home, and I'm so obsessed. So as a gift to our little community here, she is extending her beautiful practice to all of you. If you're here, local, and you tell her that you're a This Is Fine listener, she's going to give you 25% off a facial treatment. If you don't live locally, you can still get some great skincare from her. Use the code ThisIsFine on her site. It's thewildfox.co, not .com, it's .co. wildfox.co. You'll get a discount on her beautiful facial oils, gua sha tools, and more. So a huge, huge, huge thank you and shout out to our beautiful This Is Fine listener, Liv, for not only being a part of this community, but making sure our skin looks incredible. If you end up getting a facial with her, make sure you get the reflexology. My soul left my body for a minute. It was so relaxing. So go treat yourself for Valentine's Day. Lastly, if you haven't picked up on this already, 2023 is my year of exploring hobbies. I am painting for fun. I started tooling around on the piano again. I'm still taking my French lessons, obviously. I started Italian. I started ballet, which has been super lovely and joyful for my inner child. Y'all know I've been studying astrology with Shannon for a while now. That's still ongoing. And I'm trying so hard to make it to perfume school in France this summer. We'll see how that goes. This is all to say I am really enjoying adding in more play and personal enrichment into my life. I don't know if you're in the same boat, but I think we tend to lose a lot of this as we get older. The focus on responsibility, work, obligations, family, it all takes away from the way we explore the world, express ourselves, tend to our inner child, etc. So please consider this your PSA to explore some hobbies, old and new. Have some fun this year. All right, to wrap it up, I hope you have a gorgeous, romantic, magical Valentine's week. This is another friendly reminder to treat yourself like your own Valentine and do something really special for yourself too. I hope you enjoyed this episode with our sweet and charming American friends in Paris. Again, you can follow them on TikTok at American Fille, Fille, and Bisous, Bisous Morgan. Both of their accounts are linked in the show notes. I have to go now because I am researching journalist visas and practicing for my French exam. I love you all. À bientôt. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of This Is Fine. I've been your host, Dominique Michelle Astorino. We're based in San Diego, recording in studio at DLI Productions in Pacific Beach with Emmy Award-winning sound designer Dan De La Isla. This is a comedy and advice podcast, but for legal reasons, this entire podcast is a joke and none of it is medical advice. To download the transcript or learn more, visit thisisfinepodcast.com.